Teu Day. My family skipped my graduation, then demanded. I pay $12,000 for my sister's dream honeymoon. Kelsey came 7 years later, planned, wanted, born into a stable home with savings and careers. Madison was the child they had to have. Kelsey was the child they chose to have. That difference shaped everything. 4. Red flags about Derek the information gathering, foreshadowing. Madison recalls meeting Derek only twice in the 18 months he's been with Kelsey. Both times felt strange in retrospect. He asked unusually detailed questions. Your sister says you're a financial analyst? That's impressive. Do you own your place or rent? Those downtown condos are expensive. She thought he was making conversation. She remembers something else. 3 years ago, Kelsey asked Madison to help with their parents' tax documents. Madison emailed her SSN and other details to Kelsey to forward to the family accountant. And 6 months ago, when Madison visited her parents' house for Christmas, Derek offered to help Dad clean out the garage. Dad's old filing cabinet was in that garage, the one that still held copies of Madison's birth certificate and childhood documents. 5. Barbara, the setup for chosen family Madison, also remembers last week, when Barbara Chen, her mentor at work for 5 years, asked about the graduation. Madison admitted she was worried her family might not show up. Barbara was quiet for a moment, then said, "Family isn't always who you're born to, Madison. Sometimes it's who shows up." Madison thought it was just comfort. She didn't know Barbara had written down the ceremony details. 6. The unexpected gift. As Madison prepares to leave the empty auditorium, she hears someone call her name. She turns to see Barbara standing near the exit with 3 colleagues from work, holding flowers and a balloon that says congratulations. Barbara smiles. "You didn't think we'd let you celebrate alone, did you?" Madison cries, but she's still too heartbroken about her family's absence to fully absorb this gift. She thanks them, takes photos, accepts their hugs, but her eyes keep drifting back to those 4 empty chairs. Cliffhanger. Driving home, Madison's phone buzzes again. This time it's a voicemail from Mom, and her voice sounds different, not demanding or dismissive, but afraid. "Madison, we need you here. Tonight. It's about Kelsey. Please come." Whatever is waiting at her parents' house, Madison senses this isn't just another guilt trip. Something is very wrong, and somehow she knows her life is about to change. Part 2. Rising Action. The $12,000 they thought I'd never question. Target length. 1,100 to 1,200 words. Objective. Escalate the conflict through the outrageous financial demand, reveal the parents' direct motivation for participating, show Madison's professional instincts activating, and deliver the first major twist she discovers she's been a victim of identity theft for 18 months without knowing. Current context. Same evening, still in her graduation dress, Madison arrives at her parents' house, expecting guilt and manipulation. What she finds is calculated exploitation that goes far deeper than she imagined. Thumbnail text. Key points to develop. 1. The cold reception, no acknowledgement. Madison enters the living room. No, congratulations. No, sorry, we missed it. The family sits in tense silence. Mom wringing her hands, Dad staring at the floor, Kelsey red-eyed and sniffling, and Derek beside her with an expression Madison can't quite read, watchful, calculating. Dad speaks first without looking up. "Sit down, we have a situation." Not, "How was your graduation?" Not, "We're proud of you." Just, "We need something from you." Again. 2. The $12,000 demand with hidden motivation. Mom explains in a rush. Kelsey and Derek need exactly $12,000 for their dream honeymoon in Bali. The payment deadline is in 48 hours. They're temporarily short on cash. Madison is the only one who can help right now. Then Dad adds something that catches Madison's attention. Derek's been working on a business opportunity. Once it comes through, he's going to invest in my consulting firm. This is just a bridge loan until then. Madison watches her father's face, the hope there, the desperation. She realizes, this isn't just about Kelsey's honeymoon. Dad has skin in the game. Derek promised him something. 3. The familiar guilt tactics. Mom starts crying. You don't have children. You don't have a mortgage. What else is your money for, if not family? Dad adds, family helps family, Madison. That's what we've always taught you. Kelsey finally speaks, voice small. I've dreamed of this honeymoon my whole life. Please, Maddie. But it's Derek who bothers Madison most. He watches her with an intensity that feels like assessment, like he's calculating whether his investment is about to pay off or fall apart. 4. The red flags multiply. Madison asks a simple question. Can I see the booking confirmation? The invoice? The room goes silent. Derek answers smoothly. It's handled through my business account. I can forward you the details later. Madison notices several things at once. $12,000 is oddly specific for a honeymoon package. 48 hours is an unusual deadline for a resort booking. And when she asks Derek what exactly his business does, he gives the same vague answer. Kelsey always gives consulting and investments. She also notices something else, a stack of mail on the side table near the door. Several envelopes are addressed to Madison Sharp at this address, her parents' address, where she hasn't lived in 15 years. 5. The overheard conversation. Madison says she needs time to think and moves toward the door. As she passes the hallway, she hears Derek whisper urgently to Kelsey in the kitchen. She's asking too many questions. The accounts are frozen. We needed that cash yesterday. Kelsey whispers back. She'll give in. She always does. Just let Mom work on her. Madison pretends not to hear. But those words "she always does" cut deeper than the money demand. Her family doesn't see her as a person. They see her as a resource that has never failed to deliver. No one from my family came to my graduation. They all went to my sister's barbecue party instead. But when I walked off stage, my phone buzzed. We need to talk. Urgently. They wanted $12,000 for my sister's dream honeymoon. Mom's 45 missed calls. Then the police showed up and revealed why they had favoured their golden child all their lives. Everyone was shocked. 6. The discovery that changes everything. Twist Hasson. At home, Madison's financial analyst training takes over. Something is wrong, she can feel it. She pulls her credit report for the first time in over a year. 2 years ago, she changed her personal email address and forgot to update her credit monitoring alerts. They've been going to an inbox she never checks. Now she sees what those alerts were trying to tell her. 3 credit accounts she never opened. Total debt, $47,000. Contact address on all 3 accounts, her parents' house. Opening dates, 18 months ago, exactly when Derek entered their lives. Madison's hands shake as she calls her bank's fraud department. Then she files a report with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. She doesn't sleep that night. Cliffhanger. Madison stares at the credit report until the numbers blur. For 18 months, someone has been living a second financial life under her name. The mailing address is her parents' house. The timing matches Derek's arrival. And her parents have been receiving mail addressed to her, handing it to Derek without saying a word. The question isn't whether her family knew, the question is how much they benefited. And Madison is going to find out. Part 3 Climax. The knock at the door. Target length, 1,100 to 1,200 words. Objective. Deliver the major confrontation. Reveal Derek as a methodical predator who specifically targeted this family's dysfunction. Expose the parents' willful blindness and active participation. And bring FBI intervention as the consequence of Madison's report. This is the emotional and dramatic peak of the story. Current context. 6 days after graduation. Madison has gathered evidence, reported the fraud, and received a callback from an FBI agent who confirmed Derek is already under investigation. She's about to learn exactly how calculated her family's betrayal really was. Key points to develop. 1. Madison's investigation, the Predator's method, twist #2. Over 6 days, Madison works with methodical precision. She runs a reverse image search on Derek's social media photos and finds an old profile under David Mercer from 3 years ago in another state. From there, she discovers a local news article, Charming Con Artist Targets Family Dynamics. The profile matches. Derek's method is documented. He doesn't target random wealthy women. He specifically seeks out families with scapegoat dynamics, an isolated family member with good credit who isn't trusted or believed by the rest of the family. 7 victims across 4 states. 304 Notstolen. The FBI agent who called Madison back confirmed. They've been tracking Derek for 8 months but couldn't locate his current address. Madison's fraud report gave them exactly what they needed: her parents' address, where Derek has been receiving mail under her name. The agent asked if Madison could provide a time when Derek would definitely be at that location. Par une exposition, the graduation no one came to. Target length, 1,100 to 1,200 words. Objective. Establish Madison as a sympathetic protagonist, create the initial emotional wound, plant the deeper backstory about why she's always been the family outsider, introduce red flags about Derek, with specific details about how he gathered her information, and set up the chosen family theme through Barbara, with proper foreshadowing. 2. The confrontation armed with truth Madison arrives at her parents' house with evidence. Credit reports, the news article, screenshots of the accounts. She lays everything on the dining room table, 3 accounts in my name, $47,000 in debt, your address on all of them, mail address to me that you've been collecting and handing to Derek for 18 months. She looks at each of them. Who wants to explain? 3. The parents' confession, willful participation exposed. The truth comes out in pieces. Derek told them he needed to borrow Madison's credit information for a business opportunity, a short-term bridge, until his investments paid off. He promised to pay everything back, but that's not all. Derek also promised Dad $50,000 investment in his struggling consulting business once the deal closed. Mom admits, we had doubts, but Derek said it was temporary. And you have good credit. Madison, you weren't using it anyway. Dad adds the words that break something in Madison. We didn't ask too many questions because we didn't want to know the answers. We just wanted to believe it would work out. Madison absorbs this. Her parents didn't fail her through ignorance. They failed her through choice. They chose to benefit from her exploitation rather than protect her. 4. The FBI arrives. Twist #3. The doorbell rings. 2 FBI agents stand on the porch, the same agent Madison spoke with on the phone, plus a partner. They're not surprised to find the whole family there. Madison arranged this timing deliberately. She wanted her parents to see. She wanted them to understand that actions have consequences. The agents explain. Derek Lawson, real name David Mercer, has 7 confirmed victims across 4 states. Madison's report provided his current mailing address, the missing piece they needed. They're here to make an arrest. 5. The arrest and the final wound. When the agents ask Derek to stand, he doesn't run. He doesn't panic. He straightens his collar, looks directly at Madison with cold, flat eyes, no trace of the charming smile she'd seen before, and says calmly, I want my lawyer. This is the real Derek. The predator underneath the performance. Kelsey screams that she didn't know the full extent, but the agents note she'll need to answer questions about her involvement. Mom turns to Madison with tears streaming down her face and delivers the final wound. If you had just given us the $12,000, none of this would have happened. We could have handled it quietly. Why did you have to ruin everything? Even now, with a criminal in handcuffs, with $47,000 of fraud in Madison's name, Mom blames Madison. Cliffhanger. As Derek is led to the FBI vehicle, Madison stands in her parents' doorway and looks at her mother. No apology, no shame, just blame. In that moment, Madison understands something she spent 35 years avoiding. Her family didn't fail her when Derek came along. They'd been failing her since the day she was born. Derek didn't break anything. He just made it impossible to keep pretending the cracks weren't there all along. Part 4. Falling Action. When the Golden Child Falls. Target length, 1,000, 100 to 1,000, 200 words. Objective. Show realistic legal consequences for all antagonists, depict the complete collapse of the family's social standing, demonstrate Madison's journey towards setting boundaries, with realistic internal conflict, and begin her healing process with Barbara's guidance. Current context. Madison Sharp, 35, sits alone at her college graduation, a milestone she achieved while working full-time as a senior financial analyst. This should be her triumph. Instead, it becomes the day everything begins to unravel. Current context. 5 weeks after Derek's arrest, legal proceedings are underway. The family's carefully maintained image is collapsing, and their attempts to pull Madison back into her old role are failing. Key points to develop. 1. Legal consequences. Justice documented Derek faces 14 federal charges: wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and conspiracy. His pattern of targeting families with scapegoat dynamics is documented in court filings. He takes a plea deal to avoid trial, 12 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole until he serves 5% of the sentence. He's ordered to pay $340,000 in restitution to 7 victims. Upon release, he'll face 5 years of supervised probation and a lifetime ban from the financial services industry. Kelsey is questioned extensively as a potential accomplice. FBI investigators determined she wasn't directly involved in opening accounts or forging documents. But evidence shows she knew Derek was doing something with Madison's information and chose to stay silent. Prosecutors initially considered charging her with misprision of felony, a federal crime carrying up to 3 years. But proving full knowledge is difficult with circumstantial evidence. In the end, she accepts a plea deal, 18 months probation, 300 hours of community service, a $5,000 fine, and a federal conviction on her permanent record. No jail time, but that conviction will appear on every background check for employment, housing, and credit for the rest of her life. The dream wedding is cancelled. All deposits are lost. 2. The parents reckoning social destruction FBI agents interview the parents multiple times. They claim ignorance. Derek told us it would be temporary. We didn't understand it was illegal. Agents document their willful blindness, the legal term for deliberately avoiding knowledge of a crime. The U.S. Attorney's Office declines to prosecute due to insufficient evidence of direct conspiracy. But the parents don't escape consequences. Their names appear in court documents as persons of interest. Word spreads through their small community within weeks. Mom can no longer face her book club. The whispers stop when she enters a room. Dad avoids the golf course where he's been a member for 20 years. Neighbours who once waved now look away. The perfect family image they spent decades building crumbles in weeks. They list their house for sale within the first month and sell it 4 months later well below market value to a buyer who doesn't ask questions. They move to a small town in another state where no one knows their name. 3. The family's final manipulation and Madison's struggle. Before they leave, the family makes one last effort. Mom calls, sobbing, "Talk to the prosecutor. Tell them Kelsey didn't mean any harm. She was manipulated by Derek too." Dad sends a long email about how family forgives family and outsiders shouldn't tear apart what we've built. Kelsey texts, "We're both victims here, Maddie. Derek fooled all of us. Don't abandon me now." Madison doesn't block them immediately. For 4 days, she lets messages pile up. She reads every one. She even drafts responses, angry ones, pleading ones, cold ones, and deletes them all. She doesn't sleep well. Part of her still wants to fix it, to find some way back to the family she always wished she had. On day 3, she cries for hours. On day 4, Mom sends one more message. "I don't understand why you're doing this to US. After everything we sacrificed for you." Madison reads it 3 times. Then she understands. Key points to develop. 1. The empty chair's public humiliation. Madison reserved 4 seats 3 months ago and reminded her family 5 times. Mom promised, "Of course we'll be there, honey. This is huge for you." Now, as the dean calls her name, Madison walks across the stage to silence from the family section. 4 empty chairs among a sea of cheering families. She accepts her diploma with a frozen smile, fighting back tears, feeling more alone than she's ever felt in her life. They still think they're the victims. They still think she owes them. After 35 years, nothing has changed. She blocks every number. 4. Barbara the mirror Madison needed. Barbara takes Madison to lunch the following week. Madison admits she almost gave in. Barbara nods without judgment and shares her own story. 30 years ago, she discovered her brother had been stealing from their elderly mother's retirement accounts. When Barbara reported it, her family cut her off completely. They chose the thief over the truth teller. "The first year is brutal," Barbara says. "You'll question yourself constantly. You'll wonder if you did the right thing. You'll miss people who hurt you. And then one day you'll wake up and realize the absence of their chaos feels like peace. That's when you know." Madison cries in the restaurant, not for her family, but for the 35 years she spent hoping they would change. 5. Financial recovery. The long road. Madison spends weeks working with banks, credit bureaus, and FBI victim services. Because she reported the fraud immediately and FBI confirmed Derek's scheme, the banks agree to remove all fraudulent accounts from her credit history. The process takes 4 months. Dozens of phone calls, stacks of paperwork, notarized affidavits, disputes filed and refiled. She doesn't have to pay the $47,000. The banks absorb the loss and pursue Derek through the court-ordered restitution. By month 5, her credit score begins recovering. By month 6, it's nearly back to pre-fraud levels. Not because the system worked perfectly, but because she fought for every point. Cliffhanger. 2 months after her parents move away, Madison receives a handwritten letter. No return address, but she recognizes Mom's handwriting instantly. She stands in her kitchen, holding the envelope, trash can within reach. Part of her wants to burn it without reading. Part of her needs to know what it says. and part of her wonders if this is the closure she's been waiting for, or just another manipulation disguised as peace. Part 5 Resolution. The day I chose myself. Target length 1,000. 100 to 1,000, 200 words. Objective. Provide emotional closure without false reconciliation. Show Madison thriving in her rebuilt life. Deliver the full chosen family payoff established in Part 1, and leave the audience with a powerful message about self-worth and the right to choose yourself. Current context. 6 months after the arrest, Madison has rebuilt her life not through forgiveness or reconciliation, but through finally understanding her own value and choosing people who see it too. Key points to develop. 2. The painful discovery they chose Kelsey again. After the ceremony, Madison checks her phone. 45 missed calls from Mom, but not a single congratulations, just one text. We need to talk. Urgent. She calls her cousin Amanda, the only family member she still trusts, and learns the truth. Her entire family went to Kelsey's pre-wedding BBQ instead. Mom's reasoning, relayed through Amanda. Kelsey was stressed about the wedding. She needed us more. The wedding is 3 months away. 1. The letter Madison's choice. Madison opens the letter. She reads it slowly, twice. Mom's words are careful, measured, and utterly unchanged. There's no real apology for what happened. Instead, Mom apologizes that things became so difficult for everyone. She writes, I hope someday you'll understand that I was just trying to keep the family together. That's all I ever wanted. I never meant to hurt you. Madison notices what's missing. No acknowledgement of the fraud. No mention of Derek's crimes. No recognition that Madison was a victim. The letter is about Mom's pain, Mom's intentions, Mom's hope for understanding. Even in reaching out, Mom centered herself. Madison folds the letter, places it in a box with old family photos, and closes the lid. She doesn't throw it away, but she doesn't respond either. Some closure doesn't require a reply. Some doors don't need to be slammed. They just need to stay closed. 2. Where there are now consequences remain. Madison learns updates through her cousin Amanda, the only family member she didn't cut off. Derek is serving his sentence in federal prison. His case was featured in a financial crimes documentary as a warning about romance scams targeting family dynamics. Kelsey completed her community service and now works part-time at a grocery store, living with distant relatives in another state, still single, still rebuilding. The parents settled in a small town where no one knows their history. Amanda says they seem smaller, somehow quieter, less certain of themselves. Madison doesn't ask for their address. She doesn't search for it. She realizes she doesn't need to know. 3. Madison's new life thriving, not just surviving Madison's promotion, came through not because of the investigation, but because of a major project she'd been leading for the past year. Barbara made sure she knew the distinction. You earned this long before any of this happened. Don't let them take credit for your success too. Madison bought a small condo and decorated it exactly the way she wanted. Bright colours, plants on every windowsill, art she chose herself. She joined a support group for survivors of family financial abuse and discovered she wasn't alone. Dozens of women with similar stories, similar scars, similar strength. She started dating casually someone Barbara introduced her to, a friend's colleague who laughs easily and asks questions and actually listens to the answers. Her life isn't perfect. Some nights are still hard, but she's building something that belongs to her. 4. The photograph seeing clearly now. Madison finally frames her diploma and hangs it on her living room wall. Beside it, she places a photograph from graduation day, not the empty chairs, but the one with Barbara and her 3 colleagues, all of them smiling, holding flowers and that silly balloon. Madison studies the photo differently now. On graduation day, she was crying over who wasn't there. She barely registered who was. She thanked Barbara and the others, but couldn't fully receive their gift because she was still mourning the family who chose a BBQ over her milestone. Now she sees clearly. Barbara drove 45 minutes after a full workday. Her colleagues rearranged their evenings. They brought champagne and flowers and genuine pride. They celebrated her when her own blood wouldn't. The people who mattered were there all along. She just couldn't see them through her tears. 5. The deeper understanding. Madison's reflection. Madison sits in her condo on a quiet Sunday morning, coffee in hand, sunlight warming the room. She thinks about Mom's letter, about that phrase, I was just trying to keep the family together. And she finally understands the truth her mother will never admit. The family was never together. It was a hierarchy, Kelsey at the top, Madison at the bottom, and the parents maintaining the structure. Madison's role was to give. Everyone else's role was to take. Derek didn't create that system, he just exploited it. And when Madison stopped playing her part, the whole thing collapsed. She spent 35 years trying to earn a place in a family that never had room for her. She kept hoping that if she worked harder, achieved more, sacrificed enough, they would finally see her. They never did. Not because she wasn't enough, but because seeing her would have meant questioning the system that served them so well. Madison's graduation was today, but somehow Kelsey's stress always matters more. Now she understands. She was never the problem. She was just the one who finally stopped pretending. Final message, voiceover style. People ask me if I miss my family. The honest answer is, I miss the family I thought I had, the family I kept hoping they would become. But that family never really existed. It was just a story I told myself to survive. What actually existed was a system where I was supposed to give and they were supposed to take, where my achievements were invisible, but my usefulness was always clear, where I was born into the wrong chapter of their story and they never let me forget it. I didn't report Derek to hurt my sister. I didn't cut off my parents to punish them. I did it because, for the first time in 35 years, I chose myself. And I know some people think that's selfish. But here's what I've learned. Choosing yourself isn't selfish when everyone else has already chosen themselves at your expense. If you're listening to this, and you see yourself in my story, if you've spent your whole life giving to people who only know how to take, I want you to know something. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to walk away from people who only value you for what you provide. And when you do, the right people will still be there. They might be co-workers. They might be friends. They might be people you haven't even met yet. But they'll show up. They'll see you. They'll celebrate you without conditions. The ones who leave when you stop sacrificing, they were never really your family. They were just people who expected you to carry them. And you were never too much. You were never not enough. You were just in the wrong room, surrounded by people who couldn't see what you were worth. Find the right room. The right people are waiting. Final image. Madison stands at her window, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise paint the city in gold and pink. Behind her, her diploma hangs on the wall, not for anyone else to see, but for herself. Beside it, the photograph of Barbara and her colleagues, the family she chose, the people who chose her back. She smiles, not a sad smile, not a bitter one, but peaceful. The kind of peace that comes from finally telling yourself the truth. She speaks softly, to no one, and to herself. I didn't lose my family. I lost the lie that kept me small, and in losing it, I finally found myself. 3. The backstory, why Madison was never enough. Root cause. Walking to her car alone, Madison reflects on a lifetime of being second. She remembers Mom once saying during an argument, "You were such a difficult pregnancy. Your father and I almost didn't survive that year the marriage, I mean." Madison was born when her parents were 22, broke, working 2 jobs each, and considering divorce. She represented their hardest years. Every time they looked at her, they remembered struggle.